Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever wondered what actually happens the day after a company deploys a massive AI model? We hear all about the magic of generative AI, the incredible text generation, the coding, the reasoning. But when the dust settles, the stakes of deploying an AI out there in the real world are incredibly high. I mean, a single hallucinated fact or a leaked piece of data can literally cost a company millions. And that is exactly why we need a foolproof way to evaluate these models before they ever see the light of day. So, today we're going through this explainer on LLM evaluation frameworks. It is the true AI architect's blueprint for safe AI.
Here is our structural blueprint for the explainer, guiding us all the way from the fundamentals of selection right through to a safe production launch. We'll cover why AI evaluation matters, the LLM selection blueprint, evaluating RAG and agents, the metrics that matter, curing AI hallucinations, and finally, going live in production.
Section 1. Why AI evaluation matters. The stakes of building versus verifying AI.
Look, building an AI prototype is honestly thrilling, but verifying it, well, that is the meticulous, almost detective-like work that separates a fun little toy from a serious enterprise tool. When we look at the core reasons we actually evaluate LLMs, it fundamentally comes down to making sure the model meets real business requirements and doesn't just look cool. We value to select the right model, to improve reliability, to drastically reduce those notorious hallucinations, and of course, to optimize costs, because running these models in the real world, yeah, it's not cheap.
And you've got to remember, evaluation isn't just a single step. It's not a simple pass or fail grade. It's a beautifully layered framework. You start with the business evaluation, like, does this actually solve our problem? Then you move to functional and safety checks, evaluate the cost, and finally, you test it in production. It is a continuous pipeline of accountability.
Moving on to Section 2, the LLM selection blueprint, choosing the right foundation.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the chronological process of choosing a model. It can feel totally overwhelming, but we can break it down into this energetic 6-step blueprint. Notice what happens right at the start. Before you even look at a model, you absolutely have to define your objectives and build representative benchmark datasets. You have to know exactly what test you're giving before you bring the students into the room, right? Only then do you evaluate dimensions, compare models, bring in human evaluators, and run your A/B testing.
When we're evaluating those models, we use this comparison framework. For enterprise readiness, we are constantly balancing quality and accuracy against latency and cost. Because let's face it, a brilliant model that completely bankrupts your IT department absolutely fails the enterprise test. We also have to look at the context window, literally how much data it can process at once, and tool use and safety, just making sure it can output complex structures without making dangerous errors.
All right, Section 3, evaluating RAG and agents, grading the open book test.
RAG, or Retrieval-Augmented Generation, essentially turns an AI from a closed-book memory test into an open-book test. Think of it using this analogy. The retrieval layer is like a student frantically trying to find the right page in a massive textbook. The context assembly layer organizes those pages, and the generation layer is the student actually writing the essay. And this is exactly why we evaluate them separately. If the essay is wrong, was it because the student couldn't write well or simply because they flipped to the wrong page? We evaluate retrieval, context, and generation independently and then end-to-end. Now, we have to shift our thinking even further for agentic systems, because today, models rarely just work alone. They act as agents executing these complex workflows, so our evaluation has to track multi-step execution. We're looking closely at task completion rates, tool usage accuracy, planning quality, reasoning quality, and overall multi-step success rates. Basically, can the AI actually complete a 5-step process without getting completely lost on step 3?
Let's move to and see how this builds in Section 4, the metrics that matter, navigating the sea of evaluation metrics.
We need to clearly separate our measurements into two camps here. On the left side, we have retrieval metrics like recall, precision, and ranking algorithms. These measure if the system successfully found the relevant documents. And on the right, generation metrics measure the actual output. Look at faithfulness and groundedness over there. Think of these as the AI's polygraph test. Is the AI actually staying faithful to the retrieved documents, or is it just making things up? Because that right there is what determines your hallucination rate.
And hey, even though we have some amazing automated evaluation frameworks out there today, human evaluation metrics are still absolutely vital to the loop. We need actual humans to judge helpfulness, clarity, safety, and preference ranking. Because sometimes an answer is technically correct, but incredibly unhelpful to a real human user. Automated systems simply can't always catch that nuance.
Which brings us to arguably the biggest question in AI today. How do you actually detect a hallucination? When an AI speaks with absolute, unwavering confidence, how do you know it's not completely making things up?
That leads perfectly into Section 5, Curing AI Hallucinations. Solving the crime of fabricated facts. This is our detective phase.
To catch an AI lying, one technique in particular is becoming the absolute gold standard, the chain of verification, or CoVe. So the crucial point is that this technique forces the model to double-check its own homework. It's an intentional, multi-step process where the model deliberately verifies its own initial assumptions before ever giving you a final answer, vastly reducing those hallucinations.
Let's walk right through this workflow. First, the model generates an initial answer. But wait, it doesn't show it to you yet. Second, it generates verification questions about its own answer. Third, and this is where the evidence collection sits right in the middle, it independently fact-checks those questions. Fourth, it revises the initial answer based on the facts it just checked. And only then, on step 5, does it produce a final response. It's essentially acting as its own editor.
Now, you might be wondering, wait, isn't that just chain of thought? Actually, scratch that, not quite. There's a really important A versus B tension here. Chain of thought focuses entirely on reasoning, breaking a complex logic puzzle into steps. Chain of verification, on the other hand, focuses squarely on validating facts and reducing hallucinations. And while a lot of production systems combine both approaches today, they serve fundamentally different purposes. One makes the AI smarter at logic, the other makes it more truthful.
Finally, Section 6, Going Live in Production, the ultimate test.
This is the true culmination of the architect's blueprint, where the AI finally meets the real world. Deploying isn't just flipping a switch, it's a structured journey. You might spend month 1 entirely in the lab doing offline benchmarking against your datasets. Month 2 brings in human evaluation. Month 3 is shadow testing, where the AI runs parallel to live systems but, doesn't interact with actual users yet. By month 4, you're running live A/B testing, and by month 5, you are deep in the phase of continuous evaluation, monitoring those logs every single day.
And this brilliantly illustrates the enterprise best practices you really need to walk away with today. You absolutely must build golden datasets to benchmark against. Always separate your retrieval and generation evaluation. Track faithfulness meticulously. Monitor hallucinations constantly. Evaluate continuously even after launch. And be sure to weave automated and human evaluation together.
Because ultimately, the work doesn't stop on launch day. It begins. Which leaves us with one final, absolutely critical question for every AI architect out there. If you deploy an AI today, how do you know it won't lie to your customers tomorrow? Well, without continuous, rigorous evaluation, you simply don't. So keep evaluating, keep checking, and build models you can actually trust. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I'll catch you next time.